gang, it's the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls here. Tonight's show sponsor is Coursera. If you're looking to level up your skills or explore a new field, Coursera has you covered. With more than 7,000 courses from top universities and companies, you can learn anything from data science to business, even psychology, at your own pace. Whether you're aiming to advance your career or just learning for fun, Coursera is the place to be. And the best part? Many courses are free to check out, and if you choose to opt for the monthly plan, you've got a 7-day free trial to see if it fits your needs. And for a limited time, you can save 40% off a year's subscription. Follow the link in the show description to start your new education today.
Welcome to Squatch-D where the truth is first before all else. Join your hosts, veteran investigator, TV personality, and author Steve Kulls, and from the Kentucky Bigfoot Research Project and the Kentucky Fried Fixes channel, Chris Bennett. Sit back and prepare to take yourself on a journey with the longest-running Bigfoot podcast, Squatch-D. Here are your hosts, Steve and Chris.
And good evening, cyberspace. Welcome to Squatch-D for today's date, November 8th, 2024. I'm your host, your guide, the Squatch Detective Steve Kulls, along with my co-host right down there, Mr. Chris Bennett. How are you, Chris?
Please, good to see you, man. I hope everything's going good for you in New York. We've been having lots of rainy, muggy, it's dreary, depressing weather here in Kentucky, but that's okay. I still see the sunshine.
Thank you. Now, I don't know. We have a little challenge going out there tonight, Chris. I don't know if you know that. I didn't really get a chance to tell you.
In the chat room, I saw this. Looks like there's some money being thrown around.
That's right. If we get 5 super chats and we've already got 3 in, we will go for an extra hour tonight.
Oh,
or at least I will.
Okay, all right. I can do that. Yeah.
Well, Mike, we're not going to twist your arm and make you do that.
I got nowhere to be. I'm down for anything tonight.
All right. So, so far, thanks to Bruce and Larry, and just now Danny Weeks.
Danny, thank you.
So we got 3, and thank you guys. And a little fun way to keep us going for a little extra. And so let's do our roll call in the chat. Of course, we got the great Mike Lucci right with us from Kark. Good to see you, Mike. Glad to have you on. He's got a lot of relevant stuff to say tonight about this whole gig. It should be very interesting.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me back on, Steve. Always love your show.
Anytime, brother. Anytime. We were going to also have Chet Nichols on as well from Central Virginia Bigfoot, but he's a little bit under the weather tonight, so we'll have him on another night.
Yeah. Get well soon, Chet.
So first in today was, of course, Sharon, who's over there in Belgium. Hi, Sharon. You're going to catch us on the flip side, so hello to you. And we got, we got Pete H in, of course, Relic commenting from over the pond there over in the UK. He's going to catch us tomorrow. Of course, then we have Bruce in the house. Walter Kroll ready for the Friday update. Larry Sharp in the house as well. Thank you again, Larry. Jay Charlotte, what's up, my friend? Angel Nolan, hello. Grasshopper, what's happening? Danny Weeks, of course. Again, thank you, Danny. Fighting the Trackway, Bill. Mrs. Trackway, Deb, how are you? I know I've seen Jen in the house as well. Our moderator and our great bouncer, and with her own very own office assistant.
Yes.
The Beatron is back again. Hello, Beatron. Good to see you. Sandra Piper, hello. How are you? Arthur Watch, good to see you, my friend. And looks like that's the limit of our chatters right now. And of course, welcome to everybody, including our very quiet committee, the great silent majority that hangs out in the chat. Hello to you guys.
Our resident lurkers, I guess. We appreciate it. And especially, all you guys over in Europe, thank you for joining us.
Yes.
We appreciate it. And it's good to see you. And we'll catch you on the replay if you're catching it later.
Right.
I know, it's like during the wee hours of the morning.
Jack Norton in the house. Hello, Jack. Good to see you again, my friend. The Judge. Good day.
All right.
There you go, guys.
And look at that. Patty Lindsay threw in $20. Thank you so much.
Hey, 80. Gosh, I can't believe this.
We're down. We got one more to go for an hour. Don's in the house as well. So, welcome to all the new folks. Good to see you. Don's lurking, he says. And of course, for anybody that's on our audio podcast channels like Spotify, iHeartRadio, Sirius XM, Amazon, Audible, Spreaker, Pandora, Radio Public, CastBox, all those. Make sure you check out the video on this one too. Again, we're gonna have a lot of graphics tonight as we wrap up another one, folks. So, and that's what's gonna happen tonight. And again, check out our sponsor too for the night too. They do offer free courses as well, so check those guys out right at Coursera. Links down in the description below.
Education,
right? And if you like what you see here tonight, make sure you hit that like button. We haven't really pounded that one too often, but hit that like button. Helps with the algorithm. So anyway, as you know, we have been dealing with the series of trail cam pictures from this gentleman who a few days ago, back, I believe, on November 3rd, just over a week, not even a week ago, to tell you the truth, November 4th, 4 days ago, had posted these pictures that were supposedly taken on the morning of November 3rd. Maybe he did post them on the 3rd. Joined a bunch of Facebook groups and started posting the pictures here and there. Tim, of course, it was picked up automatically by our friends over there and, at the Rocky Mountain Oysters, and did a video on that.
The Big Rock Candy Mountain Sasquatch.
Yeah.
Hey, they're big fans of you, Steve.
Yeah. Yes. And yeah, because I guess some people just don't like being called a hoaxer when they're hoaxing. But I digress. And there it is. Now, Pete. All right, we're on to there we go.
Guess we're hanging out till midnight.
No, just to 11. It's 9 o'clock here. Chris gets off easy because he's getting off at 10 o'clock as opposed to 11 o'clock because he's in Central Time.
Oh, yes.
They set the clocks back a week later than everyone else, I guess.
Oh, yeah, Mike forgot to set his clocks back.
Yeah, we used to have a standing joke. We would call each other on New Year's Eve. Steve would call me from the future, and I would call him from his past.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But anyway, apparently Tim Benall from Coast to Coast AM did a post on the Coast to Coast AM website about these pictures as well. Just, very flat and much to our friends over there in Colorado, they actually didn't embellish anything on their video. They just straightforward reported it. So I'll give them credit for that. Good. That's a step in the right direction, folks.
Amen.
Like I said, I don't hate you unless you give me a reason to hate you. But then again, they did try shutting our channel down.
That was just a little bit long.
Actually, there was no, Bill, not that video. We're talking about these trail cam pictures that got posted. But we did talk about it. And as you will see in a minute or two, that, we were right in a lot of our analysis on Wednesday night. Just on the eyeballing of it, we could tell that this was likely from a video and likely not from a trail camera, and likely they were screenshots,
screen caps,
screen caps or screenshots of a video. But not off the screen. They were taken directly off the media itself, like a screen capture rather than a camera taking a picture of the item.
Right.
Of course, we know that the next day or two, he set up a GoFundMe page, which he had taken down almost the same day with a lofty $200,000 goal. The other thing too is that he had. I hear a dog whining over there. He set up this GoFundMe page, and what he did was he had given another version of his story. He was saying, you know, I was hiking in the woods and I happened to catch these pictures on my you know, I happened to catch these pictures of a Bigfoot on trail camera. And now he wanted to set this big store up with the historical famous world famous pictures of the Sasquatch, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh yeah.
A lot of, you know, overselling, I would think. So he took that down. And we do find out why. Well, we'll explain later in a minute or two. So the very next day, he set up yet another post saying, I've gotten a few people who asked if they could get an autograph of the snapshots. If that's something you're interested in, just message me on Messenger. $10 for my time and shipping. I think that's fair. I can also write a special message on it for you. Also, I've been approached to use my pictures. If you'd like to use them for something, ask. Well, under fair use, we're using them because we're commenting. Also, thanks to iHeartRadio News, a.k.a., you know, Coast to Coast, for the news article. So here we go, folks. Another Bullstein story being put into the media. And there's a reason why I'm saying it's Bullstein. So a day or two later, he did provide this daytime picture of the area. And I know, Mike, you had seen that as well. And wait a second. Okay. And so he provided a daytime picture. Now, I want everybody to look at that picture very closely and look at the tree closest to us on that left. And look all the way down near the base there. There seems to be a little mark on the tree. So, of course, I do what I do, and that's I social media scrub, and I do a lot of other things as well. We want to know where these pictures exactly were from. We want to know, you know, as much as detail as we can get. And not to mention, we've had a couple of people talking to him as well. So we know that the picture in this, again, was taken right here. If you notice, here he is on March 24th, posing for a picture next to a tree. He likes being a survivalist. And there you see this the mark on that tree again. And there we have both the marks, very clear, very apparent, all the same tree.
That's it. Same tree.
Yep. So there we have it. Same picture that was in that particular area. And that's not a good sign either, because it's not like he's not hanging out there a lot. And I also want to make notice, too, that if you notice in the picture, and it's kind of hard to tell in this picture, but there is, and I think there's a reason why this picture was taken the way it was, because you can't see. I know it's hard in this picture, but in a future picture, you'll see it better. But just to the area to the tree, between the tree and its head, in that green area up there, there is a house. That's the house of his property.
Uh-huh.
So we know that this is actually right on his property. And there is an overall shot. And there you can see the house a little bit better, I think. You know, it's kind of, I know I didn't zoom in, but believe me, that's a house up there on the hill. And we know from that picture, you know, there's a little, why, thank you. Again, Patty, thank you so much.
Too much. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So there you have it. The house back there is, you know, the tree involved. Now I cropped it so it would be a little proportional, so we don't, you know, there's only so much I can do when you start blowing up a picture. Otherwise it gets really distorted. So that's the close up. So you kind of can see the terrain to the left of the picture. Right. Now let's take a look at the picture overall. And when we look at this picture, when we scale up the tree and match up the markings on the tree to the marking on the other tree.
Right. Line up the scuff marks on the bark, right?
right? Mark the, yep, and scale him to the correct size. You now see, now mind you, he is a little bit uphill. It goes down a little bit down.
Yes.
As you can see, it doesn't look bigger than him.
No.
If not the same size as him. You know, there is no.
Yeah.
So, and that is the trail cam picture with his own picture superimposed, lined up. Again, the opaqueness was raised so I could slip it in there, and then I slowly gave it so everybody could see what it looks like. And it kind of has the same width as him, kind of the same shape as him. So what I'm thinking we're having is a camera that's set up, and mind you, this is a very ultimate refined picture of what we're looking at there. And in actuality, if let me run this little video for everybody, and you'll see the difference here. And in that picture, you actually see the creek. Now, if the picture was taken at a slightly different angle, so a couple of the items are going to be off a little bit, but for the most part, all the trees line up, all the closer trees. The back trees start to skew just maybe by a foot or so, maybe a little bit less. But
yeah, you can tell too by the daytime photo that the area to the left is it goes uphill. Too.
Right.
Interesting.
So yeah. So and the other thing too is in our one video, you can also see there's the creek, right there. And of course, the creek looks a little bit low or filled with leaves, but that's the little creek. There's a creek there, and that's because the creek runs right along. You'll see where I've actually blocked the name of the creek off on there, but that creek runs all the way around the road. The road is actually made to go around the creek.
Right.
So to get to his property, there is a small bridge from the road to the property, and they drive over to go in. So that is given the position of the house, which is actually not that one you see, that bright beam in the clearing there. It's actually further back in the woods, more to the center of the screen where that clearing is. That's his actual house.
Looks like Steve's mic's muted.
Any questions so far, guys?
No, I can tell by the daylight photos that the wooded area he's showing in the photograph, immediately behind that area where we're looking, there's a lot of brightness. So it's not like you're looking deep into the woods. So from the angle, the area immediately behind that is going to be an open area.
Right. And mind you, although this is obviously a summer, it looks like a summertime picture. So there's a lot of leaves on the trees there.
Yeah.
And you can tell in the pictures the leaves have dropped. So that's why you can actually see the house. I've actually seen photos in the same general area, of the house, but you can't see, same general area, but you can't see the house because there's too much foliage.
Right.
That would be the case if it was taken this time of year. So obviously the time of year is correct. So I don't think that these are old pictures or something that he generated. To me, it doesn't appear to be a Photoshop or an AI insertion or anything necessarily like a Photoshop or, putting it in by GIMP. But I do feel that and we'll get into this too in a second. Yeah, I do feel that the timestamp on that may have been, and the reason why, and we'll explain that in a little bit. If you look at that picture, is that the timestamp on the camera is actually clearer than the picture itself. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later, but I do believe that time stamping was inserted in that as well as.
Yeah, we were kind of thinking that Wednesday that didn't look like a legit game cam.
It's actually ironic. It's actually ironic too, with the timestamp being one of the red flags, because whenever I see these, so-called trail camera photos, it seems like the vast majority of them don't have a timestamp for whatever reason, which always drives me crazy. That for me is always like a disqualifying characteristic. So the fact that this one is one of the few that has a timestamp, and it winds up being one of, like, for you, the disqualifiers for the authenticity of this photo, it's just like ultimate irony for me.
Yeah, you disqualify him and I do the same thing. But the thing is the stamp, the timestamp on this looks wonky. And of course, his excuse was what, Mike? That it was a cheap Chinese camera bought at a dollar store or a Goodwill store.
Yeah. So I reached out to him directly on Facebook because I'm considering doing something about this for the next episode of our show on Untold. But when I had spoken to him, he told me that the trail camera that he got was like some cheap Chinese made brand from some kind of dollar store that he mentioned.
Dollar store.
Yeah. So something along those lines. And I asked him if he could send me a picture of it or give me the brand name. And his response was the trail camera had been spray painted over it. And that was pretty much his response. He kind of just...
Yeah, well, if you're buying it at a dollar store, why would it be spray painted? Wouldn't it be out of a box?
Yes, maybe they have new and used. I don't know how they do things out in Indiana. So,
well, yeah, if you bought it at a Goodwill store, that's kind of like used stuff that you could find a bargain in there. Hey, man, I recommend everybody should shop at the Goodwill every now and then. But
you can find some cool stuff in those dollar stores if you know where to look.
That's right.
I actually have. I did go through a Goodwill store a couple of years ago, and back behind me somewhere, and I don't want to dig it out, but I actually have a electric light powered with an LED bulb that actually looks like an old oil lamp.
Yeah, very cool.
And I bought that for like $7. So
yeah. It's a good cause. You get
good cause, but I've never seen a trail cam there. And if it was spray painted over, what? What?
Yeah, that was the response he gave me. So I kind of just left it at that. I didn't want to push him back enough to the point where he already got spooked and just
Sure.
Yeah, and that's what happened to our other source. Our other source was talking to him, began to question him, and then one day just found himself blocked. It was like all of a sudden he blocked me. I don't know why. I just asked the question, and he just responded by blocking him. And after having a normal conversation with him, so apparently he must have figured he got wise to him and pulled it.
That actually happened. That actually happened to another buddy of mine. He commented on one of his posts in one of the Bigfoot groups that he was posting his photos in, and he more or less was kind of like calling him out on the possibility of his photos being BS, and he gave him a reply, but then my buddy was like, yeah, I tried to follow up, and it wasn't there no more. I couldn't find him or anything like that, so I think he blocked me, and I went to that same group. I saw the same post. I'm like, yeah, it looks like that was the case. So.
That's kind of odd.
It's definitely a bit of an eyebrow raiser, that's for sure. But
Gary asks, why recreating the same scenario that was on Wednesday? We're not recreating the same. We're confirming some of the stuff there. Gary, this is a lot of new stuff we did not show on Wednesday because we didn't have the information available. We discussed the possibilities. We discussed a couple of his anomalies between his original post saying, which kind of alluded that it was on his property, and then another post when he started a GoFundMe page that said he was out hiking. Now, taking a walk on your property, I would not consider hiking, especially where we know now where it is, and you've seen that for the first time. So we're not recreating anything, but we do have to recap some of it. So people that are new or did not catch Wednesday's episode don't have to go back and not know what the hell we were talking about. That's right. It's a blur of nothingness. But again, that's your subjective assessment. It is not objective. It's subjective because, okay, it's blurry. Yeah. Does that mean it's a Bigfoot or not? Well, look at the picture there. We pretty much can tell it's not a Bigfoot because it kind of matches the person's size. And we have other things to back that up. And we even have more stuff to back it up. And it's coming right now.
Well, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of red flags here that we're going to get to.
Right.
Yeah, did you get that? Did you get that picture I sent you? See it on Facebook of like the measurements I did on Canva?
I did. I did. Yeah. Yeah. But I figured since we had the pictures here, we're going to go with that. I'll let you save your stuff for your show. I don't want to use everything for you.
But once we were looking at the trail cam pics, and we were noticing when compared to Steve's trail cam video, we were noticing that this didn't look like a trail cam photo. This looked like a screen cap from a video, because of the definition is really low quality.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how you guys came to that conclusion.
Oh, yeah. Well, we compared it to real trail cam pictures, and having some background in paranormal, I know what video camcorders look like that just use low emission IR, and they do not go very far unless you use an IR spotter or an IR booster.
Yeah.
So this to me looked like either one of three things. It is a security camera that's been hooked up to take pictures and activate upon motion. Their IRs are not as strong as a trail cameras, and we'll go over this. But let me just filibuster that question until we get over the next few slides there, Mike, and then you can kind of understand why we came to the decision. And so that was it was spray painted. And my other source said I tried to get up a GoFundMe page. I don't know if that was you or I don't know if the next response was from you saying why he took down the GoFundMe page. But he claimed to have been by rude and people heckling. Rude, maybe rude, okay, but people heckling? No, saying you didn't get a Bigfoot is not heckling. That's an opinion.
Yeah. You'll hear that a lot.
Yeah. But he took it down because he was being heckled, but the next day he posts $10 pictures. It's just kind of. So I find that now it was actually screen caps taken from a video. He's claiming now. I have the pictures. You're more than glad to use them. This is the other source. And sure, give me credit for the pictures, please. If you have any questions, I can help with more information. I just don't want people swarming my house. Okay. I'm sure that's happening. Sorry, I only have the screenshots I took from the video. Now, Mike, that was news to you because he never said this was from a video. And in fact, in everything else he has talked about, he had talked about being as pictures, not from a video. And the funny thing is our second informant was watching the show Wednesday and hit him between the eyes saying, well, I know this is video. So I made screenshots. Where's the original video? He didn't bother even asking him if it was just pictures or video. He just went out and said, well, where's the video? And the kid automatically replied, I only have the screenshots I took from the video, but after I got the shots, I cleared my SIM to set it back up because when I checked it, it was full. Now I wish I could have kept it, but I was in such shock. I got the shots, then cleared it to set it back up again, and didn't even dawn on me to keep it.
Yeah, that last comment's a bit of a head scratcher because if I was in his situation, that SIM card that had those original pictures, I'd put that shit in like a glass capsule,
Well, that's the thing. You don't clear a SIM card. It's not a SIM card. So now, am I wondering, did he use a phone with the light? Did he use a phone with a light and then grayscale the photo to make it look like it's a night vision shot? Because that's a possibility too.
He's mixing up a SIM card with a HD card or something, you know, SD card, whatever.
And that's the thing. You don't get pictures off the video. You either get a video or pictures. So to get the pictures off a trail camera, you would have to first get the video off the
yes.
You first have to get the video off the camera.
Right. What he's done there has been done on a computer after he downloaded the video from the camera or the card that came from the camera.
Correct.
So we got some major red flags,
right,
flopping in the wind here.
Right. Let alone the hokey timestamps. So that explanation doesn't. The only way you can really do that is if you put your SD card back at your camera and you hit format. Some cameras do have formats, but we've already determined this is not from a trail camera.
Right, now I'm starting to wonder, you know.
So here is what a trail camera picture looks like. I actually ran my own trail camera picture through a metadata. Now we did request and did get raw photos of the alleged originals of the pictures. And we ran them, each one through, and they contain no metadata. So that's why that box is so small over there, because there's no metadata on it. But the reason why I have the big boxes is that you can clearly see file time 1/27/2023 at 10:10 GMT. Now, 10:10 GMT is Greenwich Mean Time. That's 5 hours ahead. And if you look, it says basically 5:09 a.m. That would be 10:10 GMT, because Greenwich Mean Time is in 24-hour format. So 1 o'clock would be 1300, 2 o'clock would be 1400, etc., etc. If you look, mine has 256 grayscale unique colors. His only had like 231 grayscale.
213.
Right. And if you look at the size of the picture, dimensions 7660 by 4320, the actual dimensions of his and the file size are very consistent with screenshots. So I think this was a screenshot image, and then he placed a timestamp over that. Now, here is the other kicker, is that when he copyrighted his pictures, as you see way back here at the very beginning, he put a stamp on them. You can hardly see it, but on each one of those photos, it has a narrow band, just like the timestamp across the top, that says property of blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to dox him.
No.
So there you have it, you know, and there's even a little bit of blur on the picture I have, but you can see the difference between a trail camera photo shot that's taken from an actual trail camera. The emitters are much more brighter. The background, I mean, that background goes on for a long time. And if you look at you can see a tree, that tree is probably 16, 17, 20 feet from the camera itself.
Steve, you brought up the question that you wonder if you didn't shoot this with a phone and then use a grayscale on it, a grayscale filter. I'm beginning to wonder if that's not the case, because the IR illumination should have been much brighter, especially closer to the camera. So what it's looking like is he took a phone with the night light, just not a IR video, but just a lit video of him in the darkness or shooting a Bigfoot, whatever, and then grayscaled it. This is what it's starting to look like.
Very well could be.
You know what I thought that figure was at first? I thought like if this was a hoax, what if he just like uploaded just like a blank photo of the background in Canva and used the blur tool to try and just carve out like a humanoid type shape and just like fuck around with that until he got
Well,
it. Like,
the truth is that I did look at the pictures. The ELA test, since they're process pictures, the ELA test won't work.
mm-hmm.
But what I can tell is that there is some items on the ground, some branches that stick up on the ground that actually are in front of one of the feet. So to me, that would be a high level of sophistication to actually try to maneuver that in without making it look really bad. And Walter, thank you so much.
Walter Crawl, thank you, Walter. You guys are too much. Thank you so much. Yeah, I don't think it was manipulated, other than maybe playing with the scale.
Now, Kaiju Ninja in 1985 asks, if you had someone running a costume, wouldn't there be motion blur? Yeah, well, not necessarily. That may explain why the frames are a little bit weird. If this is a video, why only 4 frames? Right? Maybe there was some blur, because when I tend to look at a video and to try to capture an image, say I'm reviewing a Bigfoot video or something like that, and I'm trying to get a clear image, it may take me a few frames to get it clear. So I have to keep advancing until I get the clearest frame, because there always is motion blur, but there is also a lot of frames that are still. This is not the entire panel of frames he could have collected off of a video. I'm sure there was probably about, from the looks of it, 2 minutes worth of frames, right? Yeah. Or a minute worth of frames at least. That's 4 pictures is not a minute worth of frames.
And if Kaiju Ninja is suggesting that if this had been a trail cam photo of a moving object, there would have been motion blur more than likely. But I think we pretty much he's even admitted that he took screenshots from the video. So right. I think we're on about that.
Right. So if you think about it, a typical video is 30 frames per second. We have 4 frames out of at least 100, right? So that's why there's not necessarily would cause a motion blur. There is a slight blur in this. I do have other pictures where maybe the next, and that's actually a picture. It's not a video. When you look at a video, things look a little more smooth, actually. Yeah. Now, if they're running, and like I said, even running, you wouldn't necessarily get a motion blur. I've had a lot of trail cam videos that I've taken screenshots of that, but sometimes they do get blurry, and you do have to kind of forward until you get the right one. Now, what I suspect is that the person wasn't running. He just simply walked, in front of the camera. But the reason why the video wasn't used because of the propensity for a person in a costume not looking like a Bigfoot walking across. But if they can strike a few poses here and there as they walk by, right? And just post pictures, then it looks like a Bigfoot to a lot of people.
Check out Grasshopper's comment. So there's also a startup delay involved, and something running by would only get caught in the last few seconds on the right side of the camera. Exactly.
Correctamundo.
Exactly. Big brain, Grasshopper. Exactly. By the time that delay, the earliest picture he would have probably caught on the trail cam would have probably been mid-screen, headed to the right. Yeah. There wouldn't be anything on the far left.
Well, Kaiju, you missed the explanation. It was accidentally erased.
Oopsie.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we have so many holes in this, but we're going to get to a few more minutes. So, timestamp and style and overlay. The timestamp, style, and the image with camera 2, label, date, and precise time down to the minute is more typical of a surveillance cam or a DVR system. Again, that's why I automatically thought it was a blink. Many DVRs used for security and surveillance label their video feeds with the camera number like camera/2 here and maintain a consistency of timestamp overlay, often on the bottom of a frame. Image quality appearance. DVR systems often record in black and white or infrared at night, producing similar low-light images with graininess and limited detail as seen here. Traditional trail cameras, especially modern ones, often use infrared flash or bright LEDs for night vision, resulting in clearer nighttime images than this, whereas DVR cameras may capture less defined images at night. There is no infrared glow or bright flash. Many trail cameras, even with night vision, use infrared flash or LED lights, which create distinct reflections in the animal's eyes or enhance the clarity in low light. This image lacks that high contrast effect often associated with such illumination, which aligns more with the typical DVR infrared recording rather than trail camera flash. And as you can see, there's a real trail camera picture versus what we've been looking at. So you can see where there is a flash. That's actually, but the amazing thing is that when the video shoots, that stays on. So it's like a continuous flash. So signs supporting the idea the overlay could have been added later. The generic font and overlay style, the text at the bottom, especially camera/2, looks simple and generic. Text overlays in authentic DVR trail camera or camcorder footage are often embedded in a specific font and format unique to the device. While this overlay does look typical of some DVR systems, it could only be replicated using basic editing software. Absence of other identifiable metadata. Many trail cameras and some DVRs embed additional metadata file, temperature, moon phase, or band mode information directly into the image. Right. The simplicity of this overlay makes it relatively easy to fake, as it lacks specific identifiers that would be directly to a particular device. And again, we mentioned that too. It's also lacking, like many of the trail cameras, like embedding a branding on their things. Moultrie, Wild Game Innovations, Stealth Cam,
about that too,
Spy Point. Right.
Your even your trail camera that you got from like 2006, it embeds the temperature data. old technology still embeds temperature and stuff.
You know what this kind of reminds me of? Do you remember that North Carolina trail cam photo that everyone was freaking out about over the summer?
I do not.
Was
that the one? Was that the one that was either the bear or the porcupine or something like that?
Yeah, it was like standing. Yeah, it was like standing. It looked like it was kind of like hunched over
by a bench, right? Or there was another one. There was two of them that came out real close together that both were very similar. But yeah. I don't know when you're. Yeah, I think you're talking about the prior one.
Yeah. Just because like this is why I was trying to find out like the exact brand of trail camera, because in that North Carolina one, you saw the little thing, on the bottom left that shows what kind of trail camera brand it was. So when I looked at that, I compared that photo to other, I compared that still to other stills taken by that same brand, and like the figure in question there compared to like other bears and shit like that the brand it took, like the difference in appearance, detail, how you could tell, clearly what it was compared to that figure, it was like night and day. And that's kind of why. That's why I was trying to find out what the brand of this one was, just to try to kind of make that comparison. So
right,
that I wasn't able to get it. It's a bit of an eyebrow raiser.
Yep. I mean, I have had Bill. I've had trail cameras even that are not the most expensive too, but they've taken better pictures than that. It's just a trained eye that sees that, realizing that is not what it appears to be. It was a video. Let's just start there. It was a video. The time and the timestamp bar looks awfully wide for a trail cam video or a trail cam labeling type of system, because they like them. You want to show the picture, but so every little pixel counts when it comes to that. So I think that this band was layered over that, of course, without the original images, which allegedly were sent to my one contact. And guess what? They turned out to be also manipulated. So my guess is every picture that's on there is a manipulation picture. But even a screen cap would have transferred the metadata, which is telling me even more that the overlay on that is a fraud, because once you are you okay over there? Um, the over, the over the overlay is a fraud, because that's the reason why there's no metadata even on the quote unquote originals, because once you put that band in there, all your metadata, original metadata, is wiped out with your photo editing process. So that, I think, is a tell right there and of itself, that there's no metadata even on the originals. So get this: inconsistency in image quality and overlay sharpness. If the overlay text appears sharper or clearer than the rest of the image, that can be a clue it was added afterwards. Authentic overlays are usually part of the video feed or pictures and may have same graininess or slight blur as the rest of the image. If you zoom in and see a difference in clarity or pixelation between the text and the background, it could indicate the text was digitally added later.
I feel like the only big thing this guy had going for him was I looked into like the history of like the surrounding area. I checked the image databases. I actually found a good amount of reports like in the surrounding area, which I thought was kind of weird because he's only like, as the crow flies, like I think either 60 or 100 something miles east of Indianapolis.
Right.
But the area his town's in, it's kind of like in/around a part of Indiana that had like a whole spike of crazy sightings during the 1970s.
Yes.
He's actually not too far from the this town in Indiana called Fairview.
Right, the Fairview monster.
Yeah, the Fairview horror during the 1970s. So when I saw that, I was like, all right, could this, it's a little circumstantial, but could it, could this give credence to, maybe, but yeah.
Sure.
I just thought that was a little interesting.
I would certainly like. I would be more accepting of this evidence if it came with fewer red flags. that's the issue. Even if you look at it and say, "Wow, could that be a Bigfoot, or is it not?" Well, I don't really know. You can't really tell. But there's a lot of red flags that's going along with this that we're supposed to accept, and it's I don't know.
Yeah,
that makes it iffy, and if something is iffy, I can't like it no matter what.
Yeah, and especially in this field, when something comes out 99% of the time, if it's too good to be true, too convenient, then that's most likely the case. So that's why it's good we have it's good we have guys like you and Steve, and you and Steve around, because it's just so important to do your due diligence and just do your homework on this shit before you start throwing it around, backing, saying if it's whether you think it's real or whatever. So always place to do that stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Do your due diligence before you jump on the boat.
Yep.
It may be the Titanic.
Yeah.
So the easy replication for the timestamp in editing software, adding a timestamp such as a date and camera label in a photo in an editing program is relatively simple. Basic tools like Photoshop, GIMP, or even smartphone apps, hint, allow users to add text overlays in seconds, making it easy for someone to stage the image look like security footage or trail cam footage or whatever. And in fact, that message actually was from our trail camera guy. And again, he states he doesn't want to go on podcasts. Right? Doesn't want to go on podcasts because he doesn't want people swarming his neighborhood.
Well, I can't fault him for not wanting to be on podcasts. Okay, not everybody likes attention, and that's fine.
Nobody likes attention, Chris. The guy started a GoFundMe page. He's posted it in like dozens of Facebook groups. If he had a successful YouTube channel, he would probably be posting it on that too. But he doesn't have a YouTube channel that I know of.
He's often
that philosophy he's portraying there is not consistent with what he's been doing.
No, and he's answering everybody on Facebook groups.
I don't want you to look at me, but look at me, look at me.
Right, yeah. Oh, and yeah.
But you know what though? His like seeming, I'm going to try and word this as carefully as possible. His seeming transparency, though, some people might see that as a positive because if, you know, you're like receptive, answering questions and stuff like that, it's kind of like, you know, maybe you're not. You got what I'm saying. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm just like, you know, just part of
it's his apparent transparency, but he is not answering the questions at heart.
Yep.
You know, like when you ask him, can you take measurements? And that's what my second source asked him to do, was go out and take measurements.
I asked him that as well, actually.
Yeah. Yep. And he said, yeah, that's a great idea, but he's yet to do it. Right. So, and when somebody asks him for a picture of a trail camera and he says, you know, oh, it's spray painted. Well, that doesn't mean I want a picture of the trail camera. You mean there's no label on the inside of it that tells you what kind of model and make it is? You know, you're buying a trail camera, no matter where you're buying it from, and you don't know the brand of it. This guy is supposed to be a survivalist expert and promotes products and sells products that he actually puts together with his own little label on in little plastic bags. But still, he is very brand aware of things. And for him, the only thing he's not brand aware of is the camera he used to take a video, or depending on which way the wind's blowing, or pictures on a trail camera, and he doesn't seem to know the brand.
Yeah, that's another red flag.
Yeah. So again, he is doing everything. He kind of reminds me of, for those who are old enough, remembering the invasion of Iraq, when you had the Iraqi press minister, Baghdad Bob, saying, no, we've been beating the Americans. They're nowhere near our capital. Meanwhile, 20 miles away, here's the tanks, right?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you can appear to be very outgoing, but what you say is mistruth or misdirection, or in some cases, word salad, you know, and in all of those, I doubt very much he's doing a social experiment, because number one, he set up the GoFundMe page, and he thought he was going to hit. I mean, oh man, I'm on iHeartRadio. See, this is how a hoaxer thinks. When a Bigfoot hoaxer thinks, oh man, I got a story on iHeartRadio. I got a story on Coast to Coast AM. I got that channel out there in Colorado that usually gets a lot of watches on their videos. I'm going to set this GoFundMe page up. I'm going to have $200,000 in my hand in minutes. And it goes on for about 4 or 5 hours, and nobody gave him a dime. And then people start picking on him, allegedly, because so far everybody I know that's talked to him has been nice to him, including myself.
Right.
You don't start off, you know, maybe there are people that are dickish out there and sending him messages.
Yeah.
And he was a nice guy. Like, even aside from like the trail camera stuff, we actually bonded over some like non-Bigfoot related interests that we have in common with. So I can definitely speak for that. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
You know, very very like receptive to my questions and stuff like that. But
right. And I'm not judging. You know, what I will do is I am going to reach out to him tomorrow, and I'm going to ask for the truth. And I'm going to tell him, like I say to everybody, my only judge of a character is whether or not they're truthful or not. I know a lot more than he thinks I know. Unless he's, of course, watching this podcast right now. Which I doubt, because I never gave him the name of the podcast. Right. I'll know tomorrow morning and see if I'm blocked. But my only judge of a person of character, and he seems like generally he is of good character, generally, right? A little bit on the, high, a little bit on the high and mighty side a bit, but I'm used to dealing with a lot of different personalities. But now we see it in an area where he's not being quite truthful. So I will ask very nicely, and I will tell him that my only judge is how you going to answer the following question. I faked this Bigfoot picture. I faked these Bigfoot pictures because of, and that's what I'm going to tell him. Because I have no doubt I've been around way too long. Of course, Chris has too, and Mike, you're well on your way to being a vet.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to label it as a hoax because you can't really tell what's in the photo. You see something hairy run across the screen.
No, you can again.
But the story.
Right. The story tells us this is a hoax. Yeah. Right. Yeah. The inconsistencies tell us this is a hoax. We have rock solid evidence where he has made conflicting stories. If you were to take this to a court, he would lose.
Yeah, and actually, like, to Chris's point, I'm not trying to, like, officially say what it is or isn't. I'm just trying to, shed light on all, the details and facts about it, ultimately figure it out, and just, let everyone else decide for themselves, figure out whatever they think it is or isn't. To the other point, too, about when I asked him if, it was possible he could go back to the site, and try to get some measurements to give me some scale to try and, figure out, the height of whatever that figure was, he told me that he didn't want to keep going back to the area and leave his scent there. Definitely like an eyebrow raiser. It was definitely an answer I didn't like, but it was just kind of those, all right, whatever.
You mean kind of like on March 24th of this past year? That's March 24th. His scent's already been there. He's acting like it's some remote place. It's not. There's his house right there behind him.
Well, this is before I knew you made about that. You made that
right.
Actually, March 24th is my birthday.
Well, happy belated birthday, Mike.
Happy belated birthday.
It's gonna be upcoming soon. Yeah.
I'll tell you, my gut tells me, and especially, Steve brought this up, and it's just been rattling around in there about could this have been taken with a cell phone and then grayscaled. And the more I review that lighting in those photos, the more I'm leaning towards this was a video taken with a phone and just a light from the phone at night, and then maybe grayscaled.
Doesn't Apple have IR in some of their phone models for their night shots?
It might not even be IR, Steve.
Yeah, true.
I'm thinking regular light.
In looking at the pictures, actually, hang on. Let's do this. Let's leave that picture up. Actually, let's leave that picture up.
Yeah, I'm thinking regular light from the phone while he was making the video. No, it's just speculation on my part. Okay, I'm just thinking it's rattling around up there because look at that IR illumination on an actual trail cam photo. Look at that. I mean, the ground is like really bright. You can see there's a lot of IR light right on the ground, and then you can see it dispersed into the trees. And of course, it dies out the further you go back.
Like you can tell the light source is coming from the same direction the camera's pointing.
Right. Mm. But can you bring one of those photo clips up of the
poof?
Creature?
Yeah, poof.
Yeah, this looks like maybe a light from a phone. Look at the ground.
Okay. It's so well. The other thing too, this could be a zoomed in picture.
Do you think it's? Can you go back to that other photo first? The other one of the actual trail camera.
Actually, here let me do this.
Yeah, side by side. I think somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have a side by side now.
No,
I do not. What I have is that.
Okay, because I was and then go back to that.
And it's funny, you can see more detail in that picture than you can in that picture.
Right.
Because what I was thinking of at first was, is it possible that deer, it could have been like a lighter color, and maybe the infrared light or whatever was like, I don't know if this works for infrared light. You know how like light reflects off lighter colored surfaces, it gets absorbed by darker color surfaces. Mm-hmm. Maybe something like that was going on. I don't know. Maybe you know more about it. I do.
I do know sometimes darker surfaces actually can look a bit lighter. So it's hard to tell. I know the deer in that picture was probably a sandy brown type of deer, because I've seen these, during that time period this picture was taken, I'd seen them. They were hanging out on our property quite a bit. When our deer hang out, they're there quite a bit, as you can see by all the deer tracks of the snow back there. This was one of like dozens I've had of a deer, but I switched to video, so I didn't have too many pictures left. The minute I realized I was having so much activity, I switched to video, and I kept it on video thereafter. So I don't have too many pictures necessarily during the nighttime, except for those initial times. Like I only had the cameras up that was the first 30 days I had the camera up, and then I switched to video because I was getting so much activity. And I was much happier for it. I mean, technically the videos are the same. I mean, are the same as, well, here you go.
I mean, the clarity is just awesome.
I was gonna say. Even like the trees and bushes in the background, it's like night and day.
Right, yeah, and so in this particular video, the camera's slightly off to the right, so you get a lot of reflection off the trees, and the IRs are not going the same way as they were to this one. Which this is the IRs going straight back, and you can actually see back to the line. So I'm wondering, and this would also explain the pixelation if this camera was set back even further. And what he did was had a video of it and did it at a distance, and then zoomed it, and then put the layer of camera to the timestamp and everything on there. Right. So in other words, he took the video, took a screen cap of it. Now here's the thing: if you don't take the entire screen, you actually enlarge the photo.
Right.
So in this case, that's what he did, and that's why it looks a little bit grainier in areas. So maybe he cut out about 10, 15 feet of the camera. So that's entirely possible that maybe it was a trail camera, and what he did was he decided to put his own camera and time and date stamp down on that on the bottom. And again, why wouldn't you just show the video? I'm not buying the story that he accidentally deleted the video. That makes no sense because in order to get screen captures, you can't do that off. You would have to physically. I mean, how would he do that? He couldn't play it off. Can you play the video off the trail camera? Well, perhaps, but
I don't think you can edit stuff. I mean, edit the video on a trail camera. I think you would have to take and you could probably delete it. But as far as taking screen caps and stuff, you would have to take the SD card out and
well, that's what I'm saying. He took the SD card out. I mean, wouldn't he just transfer that over to the hard drive and then work it from there?
Yeah, you would. I would think. Yeah.
It's just like it just seems like common sense protocol though. Like if you upload an SD card from a trail camera or whatever, you find something weird like that, like why would you, even if you're shocked or not, I just feel like it's counterintuitive. It's like what last thing I would do. Why would you wipe out your entire, or DD card or clear the entire memory of it and like have like one less copy of, like the original ones, no less. That's definitely something I'm kind of struggling with this. So.
Yeah, if it's worth apparently $200,000, then you definitely wouldn't want to delete it. I wouldn't think. And if he's watching out there, there are people that can, if you've got the SD card or the whatever card you got, if you've deleted the video on there, there are people that can recover that info for you.
And the biggest question I have is if it costs $200,000 to start this museum in Indiana, I can't imagine what that would be here in New York.
Well,
not $2 million.
Yeah.
Well, look at it this way. In New York City, I mean, you're from downstate, and things are not pretty down there at all. But yeah, I was even saying, even for Indiana, a couple $100,000 is a drop in the bucket. I mean, you got to get permits, you got to remodel, you got to put the money up for a building to lease or to buy. Then you have to, put in interactive displays, like you're saying. You have to buy your artifacts. You have to get your press and promotion. You have to hire employees. You have to get workers' compensation insurance. You have to, have payroll. And you have to pay your contractors to do your work. $200,000, that's kind of light. It's kind of light. You would probably need about maybe 2 or 3 times that at least.
I think I could do it for $200,000, man. In Kentucky, I could probably build a nice Bigfoot museum.
Hey, I don't want to hear that. In your town, they closed the zoo because the chicken died.
See, we don't have much money around here, so that's good when it comes to buying stuff. But $200,000, man, I could have a nice Bigfoot museum and then build me a nice house next to it, probably. Well, nice enough. Okay,
$200,000 down by where I live will get you like a nice lot, about 100 square feet.
Oh man,
that's being generous, though.
Yeah, or it will get you 10 lattes from Starbucks.
No, more like 4 or 5.
Oh yeah, Mike Ruggs Museum is going cheap. Yeah,
and that's before tax.
Yeah, true.
I saw that on Henry May's HBM's Crypto Corner. He's talking about Mike Ruggs Museum. He's closing it down, man.
Well, yeah, he obviously he's been doing it a number of years. He was up there in age to begin with.
Yeah.
I do have a couple of symposiums that he had talked at, and some of his presentations were unbelievable.
Yeah.
They did catch a thermal many, many years ago that was quite incredible. They caught something running. And that was really something. That was a sight to see, actually. It was pretty impressive. But anyway, if Mike's out there, hears that, we wish him the best in his retirement.
Absolutely.
I know he is selling his building as well, but the building it no longer can be zoned to be a museum. So the items in the museum are going separate from the actual building itself. And that he's probably hoping that Cliff will, and I'm sure Cliff is going to get some of his exhibits that are in there.
Oh, yeah, I hope so. Cliff Barrickman, he's got a museum in Oregon. What's the name of that town? I'm sorry, Cliff. I can't remember.
Something Bigfoot Center, I think.
Yeah, North American Bigfoot Center up there in Oregon. Yep, and that's true. Mike, Mike has been on the show before a long time ago. Mike was idealistic. He kept the museum, but he was one of those guys that was just one of those committed guys to doing this, and you got to love him for it. It's sad to see some folks get up there in age. We'll all be there at some point in our life. Maybe not you for a long time, Luch.
Okay, here it is. I got it. I looked it up because I can't stand, when the brain don't work. Yeah. Cliff's Museum is in Boring, Oregon. Yeah. I don't mean derogatory. That's
I knew that. I just didn't want to say it.
Boring, Oregon. But Oregon is anything but boring. It is a beautiful state, and if I wasn't planted in Kentucky, I would probably plant up there somewhere because it's very nice. Very nice. Beautiful.
Right.
Incidentally, see, like this whole thing kind of made me curious. Like, I know there's other, like, maybe there's trail camera photos, videos out there. What are like 2 or 3 that you've come across that you think have the best chance of being the real deal?
Well, I always thought the Vermont trail cam pic was good. Yeah. Just damn wish he didn't set it for a minute pause between pictures. Otherwise we would, or set it to video. But then again, at the time he was a 68-year-old guy wondering what the hell he had on his property. And,
right. Last thing in the world he was expecting to see. Right.
I have, what the heck? I have heard, hang on a second. I have heard Paul Matea's presentation on the Jacobs photos. Paul Matea is a BFR investigator from the western part of New York State, and he does make a compelling argument for the Jacobs photo. But I don't know. I've always been stuck on the Jacobs photo because it was the same damned color as the bear cubs.
And the thing the thing too about the Jacobs photo was, like, before that, he even admits he took photos of other black bears.
Right.
So my thing's like the odds of, like with that information in mind, the odds of, whatever's in that photo being either another bear or just a squatch. Like if I'm a betting man, I'm betting my house on it's probably a bear. And the other thing too was, there's like 3 or 4 other photos that kind of depict like a similar looking figure. And, it turns out that all of them, they were just bears taken at these just like, deceptively convenient angles.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And look who just snuck in, the Howler. Welcome, Howler. Good to see you, brother.
The thing about the Jacobs photos, once you see those and then you see the photos that were taken before, and after, were a lot of bear cubs. It's makes you start thinking, well, is it possible that this could be just an odd angle, an odd pose of a bear?
Yeah.
And you can make that argument.
And to that point too, the Bluff Creek Project, they actually had similar photos too of a bear. Just taking like a convenient angle, it's in that same posture, and then subsequent photos reveal it's a bear. That's why, like, whenever I set up trail cameras, I never expect to get something weird like a Squatch or anything like that. It'd be nice, but the main reason I do it is just to just kind of get the feel of just like the traffic of wildlife in the area, and who knows, maybe you'll get lucky. But I never do photos. I always do videos. But I always put 2 different trail cameras at 2 different angles covering the same area specifically for that reason. If you catch something weird on the other one, you can't figure it out, just try and go to the second one you set up in that area, see if it caught it. Maybe that different angle will shed some light on it.
Right. And Mike, on your trail cam videos, are they branded with the brand name of your trail cam on there too?
Yeah.
Okay. Most of them I see are. That was another questionable thing about these Indiana photos.
Yeah, I got the timestamp, whole 9 yards.
Right.
So
Moultrie. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually had a couple set up at this place in southern Vermont. I've been going to for the last year and a half. Had set up for about 2 months. Before the week before I saw you in Whitehall, Steve. I actually had gotten them, and I set them up in I set 4 up in 2 different locations. They were duds for the most part. I really didn't get much. Best thing I got, it was a few consecutive clips. I actually got bits and pieces of a moose that walked across the screen, right up next to it, and it was the first time I ever got a moose. So that was pretty cool.
That's pretty neat. Yeah,
moose would be really cool.
Do you ever put out any bait like an apple or anything on around your trail cameras, or you just catch and see what goes through the woods?
Yeah, my thing is whenever I set them up, the 2 biggest factors for me is I try to set them up as far off the trail as possible, so we don't have no weirdos going back there and stealing them. And the second thing is I just try to have them set up where they'll cover as much ground as possible, or just some kind of area where there's gonna be traffic, by a game trail, by a water source. So those are kind of the 2 main things obviously so it's not facing a direction where you're gonna get a glare from the sun when it sets and rises.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, those are kind of the 3 big things for me. But
well, since we're doing the marathon version here, Steve, I'm gonna have to go get me another drink. I'll be right back.
Right ahead. So I am. Check. I got a couple that we're gonna. You'll see the power of what a good trail camera does. Here's another one.
Was that a possum?
Sure is. Yep. And here's the other one.
Look, I was shaking his ass.
You know what that is, right?
Yeah, sure do.
Yeah, it's I actually have somewhere. I have a daytime shot of my bobcats too. Really good shot. I actually got a video with 2 of them, which is really rare because usually bobcats are solitary, but there was 2 of them walking away. So yeah, and these are great. These are spy point cameras, and like I said, the reason why it looks dark in the foreground is because the actual IRs. I've turned the cameras a little bit, especially on the one on the other side. I have the berm covered, and actually, I don't know what happened to that one camera where I had the possum. Reason why that got jarred a little bit is because the deer kept knocking into it. Believe it or not, every once in a while, they be eating around, and all of a sudden you see the camera go because they're eating the leaves. And this. I didn't have the cameras running this year, but they're gonna go back and play very shortly again because the wintertime the animals seem to start running around at night a bit. But the deer just they would on any given day I'd get up in the morning, there would be 4 deer out there and fawns and everything, and they'd be eating away on everything and eating, it's like a good eat the leaves. That way they don't fall in the freaking bottom, But
actually, to that point about the trail cameras getting moved, there was at the Whitehall Festival, I met these people. They had this cabin up in the Catskills, kind of by the Phoenicia Lanesville area, and some trail cameras. Trail cameras there were this was the deepest because this camera, it's this cabin's right here, and it's right up alongside this wilderness here. It's sort of right along the border of it. And I set up the trail cameras one time, but left them there for about a month. And there was one when I set it up, it was kind of facing like this, but then when we went to retrieve it, it was kind of like that, almost it shifted a few degrees. And I remember walking up to it. I look at the kid that I set them up with. I'm like, wasn't that one facing this way? Kind of confused, played it off. When we replayed them, we saw a bear freaking walk up to it. Then the next frames to show it shaking and stuff like that, you actually see the bear on its hind legs against the tree, like its paw smacking the trail camera. It was like some of the like to this day probably like the coolest trail camera footage I've ever gotten in my life.
Well, you see that a lot of people think, it's because of scent, and sometimes it is. They smell the human on that, and they're not quite sure what it is because a lot of times, and I don't think people realize that a lot of times when bears smell the human scent, they associate that sometimes with their food being around. Think about it. You smell a human, and usually there is food either in a cooler or hanging in a tree or in a garbage can, or so they know they smell that, and they see this box, and they're not doing it because of the trail camera. They see lights. They're doing it because they're wondering if it's food. A lot of times, again, that's the anthropomorphism of us, is that an animal sees the trail camera. They don't know it's a camera. They're not quite sure what it is. That's why deer will kind of give it a strange look, but bears are aggressive towards them. Sometimes even raccoons are. You notice the more scavenger animals are the ones that will play with the trail cameras because they're wondering if it's food. They're trying to figure it out. It has this wax scent on it, and something they may not have smelled too often before or don't regularly smell. And they're like trying to figure it out. Is this food or, and then they realize it's not and they move on. Yeah. But anthropomorphism, we think, oh, they see the camera and that's the reason why they're doing it. They're probably doing it more because of their noses. And deers have incredible senses of scent. So do raccoons, so do bears, so do hogs, so do, cats are kind of a little bit less on the spectrum. They rely a little bit more on their eyesight and their hearing. Yeah. That's why their ears stand up like that, so they can, again, they can radar dish their ears, like a German Shepherd. German Shepherd, dogs with their ears up they're mainly hunting dogs or guard dogs because they can move their ears much like a cat can, and that's how they hear well.
Yeah, and to that point, I read like a few places. I'm sure like Xing out factors like rain, precipitation, stuff like that, but I guess in like certain conditions your scent could stay on a trail camera for like up to like a month. And I've actually you mentioned deer. I've set up trail cameras. I've had multiple instances where I see deer just like walking up, sniffing it. It's like they know it's there. They're obviously curious about it, and I guess all this kind of just like goes to that probably like one of the most commonly asked questions in this field, like if this thing if this thing's real, how come we haven't had anything clear show up on the trail camera yet?
Well, I think the scent issue is a big part of it.
I don't, because primates don't have a great sense of smell.
Oh no, you're right.
Yeah.
But as far as going out Bigfoot researching in the woods, I think the scent issue is the biggest part, because people they go out with aftershave on and underarm deodorant and stuff like that.
But to a primate, think of it this way: how do we react when we smell something weird?
Yeah, it makes you curious. Yeah,
we try to find it.
What is that?
Yeah. Just like a fire, sound, anything. So they're naturally curious. So they smell something like a cigarette or a flowers, or maybe cooking bacon. That's happened before too. With just ask Nezra. They had a huge. They actually had a sighting shortly after cooking bacon. They were cooking bacon. That bacon was wafting everywhere, and but the unfortunate thing about that is that's the kind of scent that also call in all the other bad, more nefarious players like coyotes, wolves, bear, especially bear, bobcat.
Yeah. I'm not worried about any of the rest of them, but I'm scared of a bear. No part of no bear.
Dude, it's not even bears. I'm scared, especially black bears, because they're supposed, unless you like catch them by surprise or like fuck with their cubs, like they're apparently like skittish.
Right.
whenever I go out, whenever I go out in the field, like I have friends I have friends like who know I do this stuff. They ask me like, what I'm afraid of and stuff like that. I tell them two things I'm afraid of most. Like when I go out in the field and stuff like that. If they're in the area, moose, and then running into other people. Yeah. Those are the two things that will worry me most. Bears, coyotes, stuff like that. It's not even on my mind.
Yeah, most bears will scare pretty easy. Black bears, anyway. And yet, Bill makes a good point, too. Deer are drawn to the camera because of the sound of the IR filter clicking into place. There's an audible click. Yes, I've heard that, too. You'll hear it go, chick, chick. That's very true, too. And then not only, and it's amazing because I remember just to show you that a lot of animals just don't care. I was actually up on the berm servicing the cameras. And 45 minutes later, the bobcat shows up.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But it was because I actually serviced it in the evening one time. It was late. And then, okay, another, 45 minutes. It's dark. And here's the bobcat.
Well, most animals that you catch on a game cam are unaware of the camera.
Okay. There's another point. Bill says he puts his cameras 9 feet up as long as you angle them down. There's a lot of people that are putting their cameras up 8 feet and they're not angling them. They expect the Bigfoot's head to catch it and then you're just going to get the top of their head or, a far distant. Truthfully, the best way, set it at 4 or 5 feet. Get everything you can on a trail camera. If you're going to set it up at an angle, remember when you set it up higher, and a lot of people do this, but you're actually, when you set it up higher, okay, now you have this, but when you set it down, now you have less of a field of view of attack. So that's a big reason why we don't get so many trail cameras pictures. There's a lot of trail cameras that get bumped. I keep telling people triangulate your cameras. So you have one camera shooting another. If you look at the berm, a lot of times on my videos, you'll see the other camera trigger too. So if something bumps my camera and starts making its way towards the other one, it'll flash up. So you always get a view of what's moving your camera. That's really important. Cover your cameras with one another, and it's great because you'll get a video of one walking away and then you'll pick it up with another one coming, with the coming shot. And I got a beautiful one of the bobcats walking right by that camera. And then he decided to go low and I got a beautiful picture of him coming down the hill and by the camera.
I'm sure the other variable too is like, there's just a lot of people who just don't know what they're doing with these cameras. Like they probably have like default settings or maybe they set up the settings like by accident or just got it once so don't know how to do it again, where like there's like a X amount of seconds delay and like one photo and they have it set up where like it takes one photo every X amount of seconds, and like hypothetically if something like a Squatch or something like that were to like walk past it, by the time it's like out of range, it takes that photo, there's nothing there for it to get,
And truthfully, you can set the best trigger time. If one is motivating past the camera, you're just going to get a blank picture.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't worry if you get a blank picture. That could be a deer walking nearby. That could be any other animal walking nearby. In fact, my cameras are actually only set about 3 feet off the ground because I want to catch the little critters too. And I do. I've caught field mice, the possum, skunk, groundhog, raccoons. I have caught 11. I have caught 11 different mammals on that computer. They're on that trail camera, which is really awesome because one day, we got a groundhog. That's the first time to have a groundhog. It's kind of cool. Like you're racking the animals up. You're looking at what your ecosystem has in it.
And I think those are good indicators too, especially when you get those big apex predators on cameras. It's just like, all right, my ecosystem is big enough to support one of these guys, then who's to say, who's to say I can't support the big guy, especially if it only comes through the area, like, if he wants out of the air or something like that.
Right. And my trail cameras are up not because of Bigfoot. They're up because I want to see what's in my backyard. When it's time to pull them down to go deploy them on somebody's property that has a Bigfoot problem, then they'll get pulled off the trees and off they go. And that's huge. You gotta, and again, like in New York, you can put trail cameras up, but you can't leave them unattended. In other words, when I say unattended, is you got to be in the area, and that's why I use my trail cameras around my campsite. I don't necessarily go 5 miles and put one there, because if a game warden finds it, they're going to snag it, or a ranger, they're going to snag it, because and rightfully so, is that New York has an eavesdropping law, electronic eavesdropping law. The way the law reads is that you have to be, in order to record a conversation, you have to be part of that conversation. It's not an all party consent. It's just a one party consent. As long as you're part of that conversation, you can record it. Unfortunately, when you set a trail camera on video, it records audio. So that's why they don't allow those in public areas without you being in, because it'll pick up a conversation that you're not entitled to eavesdropping on.
Oh, wow.
So that's the exact reason why they do that.
Bill says I use Browning cams tethered to a 5-point link cell transmitter, 16 battery. They'll run almost 18 months on one set of batteries, and I don't have to visit them. Now that is neat.
Exactly. Well, I have 2 spy points out there, as you all saw, and when I put fresh battery pack in them, they'll last about a month, and I'll go out and I'll swap them. But now Spy Point has battery packs for them. So I'm going to, after Christmas, or maybe on my Christmas list, I'm going to get 2 battery packs for each camera. That way I can always just rotate them out. I have two SD cards for them. So when time comes to pull the batteries, I pull the card. So, and I already get the thumbnails for the videos I have. So, although I can't necessarily view the videos because I don't have a subscription plan to them, but I can look and say, oh, okay, I got a Fox video. Oh, okay. And then when I get enough, then I'll do the maintenance a little early. I'll grade, because I want to get those videos. Do you think that they smell the batteries? The Sasquatch, I doubt it very much. Again, the primate nose is a very small snouted animal. We don't have the greatest sense of smell, neither do any of the other primates. I mean, they will take things and smell them. And you can do that too. We just don't. But in actuality, we do. We just don't realize it. Like, you ever making a good pasta sauce, the gravy, what are you doing?
Oh, yeah.
You're smelling it. You're trying to see. It's something. It smells like it needs something.
It's every Sunday at my house.
Yes, amen to that.
Dude, when I smell that garlic cooking in the kitchen, I'm in there to see what's going on. I like that stuff.
Never gets old.
Yeah. I mean,
that's
and that's it. Yeah.
I mean, we've got so many game cameras out there, and it's a legitimate question. Why are there no legitimate photos of Bigfoot on these game cameras? And the answer is, I don't know.
Two reasons. Well, 3 reasons. Okay. Number 1, it's still a needle in a haystack. You have 5 trail, you have 5 needles in the haystack. You're only covering certain areas, right? That's number 1. Number 2, the animals are not as populous as we think, right? There's not, think about it. How many times do you put a trail camera out necessarily just in a random area and get, say, a fox? How many foxes are there in New York State? Thousands, right? Thousands. So even if there's a few hundred Bigfoot in New York, that, think about the odds of that. Think of the bear population. Again, that's in the thousand. That's a few thousand in New York, right?
Right.
I've never gotten a bear yet on a trail camera except once, and that was a baited area that I loaned my camera out to some guy who was checking his area out, and he put some apples out to see what was out there, right? So, and that was a baited area. If it wasn't baited, he may have gotten nothing too, because I've had my cameras out plenty of times in the Adirondack State Park while I was around. Hours. And literally, there was times that my cameras, I would be out there for a week at a time, and the cameras would be out there at a week at a time. Not even a single deer.
Yep.
Not even a single deer. And that was with a 3 trail cam spread at all times. So, that's number 2. And number 3 is, do not underestimate that they are watching you sometimes in their areas. I've talked about my second sighting with the juvenile, and how that next morning we found a birch log behind one of our participants' Jeeps, and we had been collecting birch all day, but we weren't collecting birch for hours. What that told us was that they were watching us during the daytime. So if you're sending a trail camera up, it sees that trail cam. It may not know what it's for, but it's going to be suspicious of it because it's a foreign object.
Right.
So they may just avoid that area. Because again, most of the time, their goal is avoidance. And it's not until things go quiet that they start sneaking around.
Yeah.
And then what do they do? What do they do to make sure there's nobody around or everything is going to remain quiet? Is they chuck a rock every once in a while. See what the reaction is. And if they get a reaction, chances are they're going the other way.
And the whole thing too about leaving the birch bark, you guys collecting it all day, then possibly watching and stuff like that. I think there could be some legs to that. I was doing some research for a upcoming segment we're gonna do on our show. I came across this article about orangutans, and they do this thing. You probably might already know about this, Steve. They do this thing called peering when they venture into a new area. So basically, what the orangutan will do is they'll find like another orangutan, and they'll just closely, intently observe them for like a long ass period of time, just to get an idea. Kind of use them as like a role model, just as a frame of reference for how to survive in this new area. And I hear stories like that. I hear other stories, speculation about how these creatures supposedly watch humans from a distance and stuff like that. I think it's, with all that said, I think it's kind of fair. We could equate that behavior with, this whole peering thing that orangutans do. What are your thoughts on that?
Very well. I mean, you think about it, all primates, when entering strange areas, do the same type of behavior. They'll sit there and watch something for a while. I mean, did we not, before Columbus landed where he landed, did he not observe what was going on beforehand on the island or did he just blindly go on there? He didn't. He observed what was going on and said, okay, we've noticed there's some native aboriginals there, and we're going to, that's why. Same with anybody. I mean, that's why we, in wartime, we reconnoiter. Even when we explored the nations, the Native Americans observed what people were doing before they went and made contact with them, because they wanted to know whether or not they were violent, or they wanted to know if they were going to be friendly, or even if they were worth, contacting for provisions or contacting as a people. So, I think that's a very think of the chimp that's finding a new group. What does he do? He sits at the end of that group and he sits there and he observes, and the same with gorillas. So I don't see it would be any different for a Sasquatch necessarily going into strange areas, and they're going to observe. I've always said we're their television, we're their TV. So I think there's a lot of validity to that.
I think that goes into that these creatures, it's related to that these creatures observe the environment and they recognize when something is not part of that environment. Whereas a deer or a bobcat, would probably just walk past the trail camera and not even think anything about it. A Bigfoot would see that and realize, hey, that's not normal. That's not.
Yeah, I definitely think the intelligence factor has a lot to do with it too. People are like, "Oh, you get all these other apex predators on, on camera," but like, if these things are the way, like we think they are in terms of like intelligence, like when you're in the woods, like it's like us, then it's supposed to be them, and then the next smartest thing is like a huge drop off.
Right.
If they're as familiar with their environment as they are, they probably know those woods as familiar with how like we know like our bedroom or our kitchen or something like that.
The other thing Jen made a comment says, well, if they're watching you and leaving you birch log, that would show probably communication with them. So that leans towards language, which is always under debate. No, in actuality, communication is totally a different spectrum than language. For example, chimps communicate, gorillas communicate, orangutans communicate, bonobos, billy apes, they all communicate, but yet they lack language, right? So, and chimps, they'll leave things, they'll mimic people and see things being done, and they'll leave it. It's mimicry. They see birch logs, okay, I'm going to leave a birch log. It's mimicry. It's anthropomorphic to think that would be anything related to language, or even the concept that they're doing that to help us burn our fire. He did it because he saw us collecting birch, so he figured he would leave one too. It's mimicry, not necessarily being kind. That's how, and what I mean by anthropomorphic is we see that in our human minds relating to how a human would act. And that would be, oh, we saw you collecting birch, so he just wanted to help you out. No, he saw you collecting birch. He figured, okay, there's a log. Boom, there it goes. He doesn't know why he's doing it. He just does it because he saw us all doing it.
To that point, though, about the language, did you hear about that study those scientists in Israel did with the marmoset monkeys?
No, I have not, actually.
Yeah, so like apparently it's supposed to be like this crazy breakthrough study. These scientists are claiming they use like this machine learning algorithm. They recorded a bunch of marmosets, they put them in pairs and stuff like that. And basically what they found out was when they call out to like, specific individuals in their troop or pack or, whatever you call the, group of marmosets or whatever, they use like different pitches and like, frequent, they use like different pitches or sounds or whatever. So when they isolated these sounds to associate a specific picture of a specific one with like a certain individual, they would take that individual marmoset, put it by itself, replay a bunch of marmoset sounds. When that certain pitch or tone was played, it would respond more animately. So what they kind of think like they have or might be on track to discovering, like the framework of what we might, like what they used, to like label each other, like these vocal patterns, what they use to label like other individuals in their groups, the same way we might associate with like names. And to them, they're saying that might be, like the infrastructure to what like, some equivalent of like language with them. I don't know. I thought it was a pretty interesting study.
Interesting. I would still call it communication rather than just because you have a language, you would have to have symbols to represent. There would be reading. There would be, all of that. And Danny Weeks asked me, so you still dismiss that Navy language expert? Yes, I do, because how many sources did he get his study? How many sources did he use for his language study? As far as I know, he only used one source, and that was the Sierra Sounds. Right. And when you use one source, let's just say, not saying it is, but let's just say that was hoaxed, right? Then it would be very similar to language because our tendency to be anthropomorphic, right? That's why you can tell, for example, Sasquatch, Ontario, right? Oh, they have a language. Everything is anthropomorphic there, right? They have a language. They do. Well, why don't they send you a note, right? Because that's what comes with language is also the written word.
I think what Mike was talking about with the monkeys would be interesting, though, because it's interesting to note that they're playing different frequencies and that individual recognized a certain frequency. And being a owner of a herd of Yorkies here, I know we have 9 Yorkies, and I can tell you specifically which individual dog it is if one is barking. Every one has a distinct frequency that I can hear.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if the monkeys might be able to recognize, individual members of their group according to that certain sound they make.
Yeah, that's basically what the study was alluding to.
That is fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it's very fascinating. But dogs can, like I said, can understand. You call them by name. They can have a working knowledge of the English language of about 250 words, as can any creature, pretty much. A chimpanzee is purported to have a 3 or 4 year old age ability, which means they can understand a heck of a lot of words. They can probably understand some conversations almost. Not to 100% clarity, but like when you start talking about your dog, you ever noticed all of a sudden they start looking at you because they understand certain things.
When I use the word walks or baths with my dog, he starts disappearing.
Yeah. Look out the window and boom, they start looking out the window. It's you can do that all day long. So, but you also have to be. That's not necessarily understanding. Look out the window. They've associated that term with doing that task, just like probably the one monkey understands this pitch means him. So, but it is borderline the beginnings of language. And I'm not saying that Sasquatch doesn't have the beginnings of language like the chimpanzees do. Because the chimpanzees, scientists believe they actually may be going into their own stone age now. So that's pretty interesting. I've seen chimps play video games and stuff like that. It's amazing. Yeah. So, they have that comprehension, but language has to do more with the development of the vocal cords. So evolution has to take place. A lot of people do not understand. They think that, all of you can learn a language and one day you're going to say, all of a sudden the chimpanzees say, excuse me, I'd like a number 2 value meal, please. No, they don't have the vocal cords built in to, of speech. They have to have that, and I forget the exact terms, but, they have that, exact terms, that they have to have some kind of, it's either a narrowing or and the problem with the gorillas is that they have too thick of vocal cords to have that speech. So they have very thick cords. So it has to be like at a certain depth, and then they have that ability to speak. So if I'm wrong, I may not be 100% on that. So I know I've read on it, but I need to brush up on it a bit to really talk about it. But that was my understanding. So it's going to take some evolutionary movement as well for that to occur.
Mm-hmm.
So,
what's interesting about the chimps, though, was I just read, like, as a form of communication, they'll go to, like, the bases of trees and they'll, like, drum on them.
Yeah.
And make those low frequency sounds. Like, what does that make you think of,
Yeah,
yeah. Did wood knocks or knocking sounds we hear in the woods. Whenever I see, like,
dirty, stinking ape.
Yeah. Whenever I see stuff like, whenever I see parallels like that between, like behavior like that in great apes or characteristics like that in great apes with stuff that, people describe in, like, Bigfoot reports and stuff like that, it definitely makes me think. And that's how, like, that's not even like the first, like, similarity.
And Cryptic Crystal, who snuck in late, but we forgive her because we'll know she'll check out the beginning of the show at some point in time. The same with Bat Mom over there. Hello, Bat Mom. Good to see you tonight. Sharon popped back again. And hello, Sharon, over there in Belgium. And there's a few others that snuck in too. But anyway, where did I see? Cryptic Crystal says some of those have those air sacs that said Bigfoot may have. You're very true, and that could actually be the popping we hear. If you've ever heard a gorilla beat their chest, they inflate these air sacs, and it's kind of funny. But just before they do it, it's like, it's kind of like this little, and then it's just like a pop, 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 pop. That could be tree knocks. That sounds a lot like tree knocks.
I think that these creatures may have some form of nonverbal communication. I would like to hear more reports and even some recordings of these claims of language from them. I would love to listen to some of that. But when you get away from the Sierra Sounds, there's really nothing else out there.
Oh, there is, but not as in depth. But you just can't take your snippets from one source. That does not make a scientific study. No scientist would accept a study from just one source, right? They may have some conclusions and some hypotheses, but they will always need more information to make a more definitive decision. And that's just the process. Just like, for example, in a criminal investigation, you just don't use one source of information. You look for corroborative evidence. So that's basically another source, right? In fact, there's a law. If somebody confesses to a crime, right, a prosecutor will not take that case unless there is some sort of corroborative evidence, aka another source, that they did it. So that it's true in the investigation world, it's true in the scientific world. So that's why I dismiss it. If he can come up with some more stuff using other sources,
right,
other than Sasquatch Ontario, right? Because I do believe the potential of the Sierra Sounds being authentic. I would put that at probably a 70-30 split, 70 being authentic, right? That's my view. I lean towards it's authentic.
That's why I think this marmoset. That's why I think this marmoset study was so interesting, because, it's obviously still kind of like it's an inception, but depending on how much progress they make, I think do you think it's possible that machine learning technology they could use that model as framework to develop some kind of like machine learning model where you could aggregate all these alleged Bigfoot vocalizations, Sierra Sounds, a bunch of others out there, maybe use that machine learning model to scan all those and just try to try and isolate some like overlapping characteristics that might point recurring overlapping characteristics they have that you could use to like maybe that points to some kind of language, like something resembling a language or a form of communication that shows okay, maybe all the sounds do in fact come from a single species or animal or something like that. You got what I'm saying?
Yes, exactly. Or a live specimen, Cryptic Crystal says, because we can't know until we get a body, or a live specimen. Don't forget, we can always hope that may someday may happen. But you know what, Mike, I gotta say, you have given me an idea for another little project. So, which is always a good thing because when I start working on projects, so now that's stuck in my head. I'll go
AI model of Bigfoot language.
Thanks, Chris. I know a lot of different AI engines and ones that have their own specialities and stuff like that. So, but anyway, look what time it is. That time has flown by. But Mike, it was great having you on a Friday night. I think you're the first guest we've had on a non-Sunday night.
Oh, no count. It's definitely been an honor then. I freaking had a
Yeah, we usually just do these for like evidence review and some rapping. And tonight we actually we were running a mission, so that worked out very well. And that's the beautiful thing when researchers collaborate on stuff like this with that open mind, unbiased. Leave your confirmation bias at the door, and you go into and explore and look at these things. And you know what? That's the beautiful thing about this program. We have a room full of audience that know how to do that now. And if you're new to the channel, you're going to learn how to do that, because that's why we're under, science, education and science now, or science and technology, as opposed to entertainment. We are, all about the science. Now, do we have what about the extra hour? We just did the extra hour. We were only supposed to go till 9 o'clock tonight. Friday shows are only 1 hour.
Yeah, because for some reason, when I was on your guys' show a few years ago, I remember I think it was just the Sunday night one that went for 2 hours.
Right.
I was under the impression that we were gonna. I was under the impression it was gonna be that long. We were gonna be going until midnight. So.
Good Lord.
I will be fine. I'll just have to go get another drink, and we may have to get another topic.
You want another topic? Right now the wife is out, so let's see, another topic.
Well, I could talk about my ski here. It's we're not sponsored by Double Cola, or I think Coca-Cola owns them now. But I bought me another 24-pack of ski today, and it was $14.50. Now, in 2020, that same 24-pack of ski cost me $7. But they tell me that stuff has increased 20%. So, I wasn't very good at math, so that's probably why what the problem is. $7 to $14.50 is 20%. I don't know.
There you go, Chris.
And this is
the caption on that says, not everybody likes comets.
Yeah. Oh, I thought this was going to be another dinosaur guy, a photo or video. The guy.
Oh, I just got that one.
I know it's late, Mike, and you worked all day.
Oh man,
that one took me a second.
Here's another interesting question. Right now, New York is in a drought in a lot of different areas. Did you know you're in a drought area, Mike?
I did not know that. I have a lake down the street from me, and as long as it's full, I never really question that stuff.
Yeah, which means like anybody that goes like they actually canceled Mike Vermillion, who's a Bigfoot researcher down in New Jersey. He canceled his weekend expedition event, because it's going to be cold, and because they're under drought, because the south of us is in drought. New Jersey is in drought as well. Northern New Jersey, which is where the Pine Barrens are, they're under drought watch too. So they could not have a campfire because of the drought. So he ended up having to cancel that because it's going to be cold and you can't start a fire to keep warm.
But they've got big wildfires in California now. I didn't get to read the whole story about it, but I reckon they're really blazing now in California.
Yes, that's drought, not draft, grasshopper.
There were some wildfires too in like north central Jersey, I think, weren't there, within the last few months?
I think there was, but I'm not really sure. It's been
well, at some time this past year.
So hold on, we have some comments from new members, so let's get that in there. So the OG said, Do male Bigfoots have a harem like gorilla, or does he just do one chick? Well, that's a good question. Not enough information. Not enough information. Because billy apes.
Yeah, they believe in free love.
I'm sorry, bonobos. Bonobos believe in free love. Chimps, not so much. So it's hard to tell. Gorillas, well, they have a harem. So it's hard to tell.
Actually, to your point about that drought, the Indiana trail cam photos, that kid mentioned like it hadn't rained in a while, and then you show that creek in the background. It was bone, the bed was bone dry. I just thought that was like a little interesting.
And Roker Gepta, that's a new name too as well. Well, welcome, Roker. And
welcome.
That may be true. That may be true. But when I went to Falk, Arkansas, I was told by the locals there when drought hits, they have a lull in sightings. So I don't know, but I'm going to take your word for it. And of course, right now, StreamYard is telling me my signal is weak. The connection is unstable if you're on Wi-Fi. Well, I'm not on Wi-Fi, so the connection is not unstable. That's your problem, StreamYard, not mine.
Maybe it's the men in black trying to cut us off.
Yeah.
But, no, probably StreamYard. It gives me my fair share of problems whenever. And like I just try to record shit on it so I could relate.
Well, when you think about it, these creatures would be affected by drought because their source of water is natural. It's not like they're carrying around a bottle of Perrier,
Yeah, they're going to need a water source. I actually thought that would kind of make sense too, where like drought conditions could help you up your chances of seeing one of those things because, like it doesn't rain, all animals need water. I'd imagine they'd be near a water source. So, yeah. But I don't know, for something like that, I would have to like go through a bunch of Class A reports and just try and find as many as possible that happen like around the time of a drought and just see if there's like any kind of like correlation or pattern with that.
Yep. Well, there it goes back again. Connections on it. What else we got? That's true. Very true.
His connection is unstable.
Oh no, I'm probably unstable too.
Yeah, Pete Pete says most sightings are near water. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, OG, let's kind of keep the chat family friendly, please.
Well,
you may be talking about the Zana thing, OG, and I am not up to date on Zana. I do realize that it probably was not a gorilla-human interaction that produced a child or anything like that, no.
But there were Russian experiments that tried to crossbreed a female human with a
but they did not actually
didn't work.
They did not actually have them made.
No. It was in the laboratory, right? Yeah, they were using the components from each, and they wouldn't work.
Right.
Actually, you guys are talking about the Pine Barrens. Jeremiah from Bigfoot Society, I think he just came out with a short that highlighted a report he got from the Pine Barrens, I think. I'm not sure if I saw that or not.
I'm just trying to catch everything. What about orangutans? Jeremiah asked about the whole harem thing. I'm not quite sure. It's like some of the behaviors I'm up on. The family behaviors I wasn't necessarily in tune with. A lot of my stuff on behavior is based upon situational behavior because we just don't know. And the reason why I don't know is because I was more concerned about how primates act within the different scopes of their areas. whether it be a territory, a home range, or a foci area. And the reason why is all the rest of the stuff is so different. There's nothing similar. Like, the mating habits of the bonobos are different from the billy apes and are different from the chimpanzees and different from the orangs and different from the gorillas and how they arrange their families, as it is different for Homo sapiens as well. So I did not. What I was looking for was the similarities, and the similarities go to a certain point. When you start breaking the other things down, understanding, the family life of a chimpanzee, wasn't, although it's intriguing, it wasn't something I retained easily because it wasn't the main focus. My main focus was on stuff that all primates had in common. So that's the reason why I can confidently say, yeah, the Bigfoot was apparently showing a territorial reaction or a home range because all primates act similarly in territories. Their means and methods and modes may be a little bit different, but their overall demeanor is the same.
Well, I think that the Bigfoot creatures live in a family group, but I don't know what the dynamics are of that.
Right. Yeah. You just never know. So,
I think it's kind of similar to how gorillas work. Like gorillas, I think they live in family groups or troops, but then I think males, when they go from troop to troop, they'll be more like solitary. So I wouldn't be surprised.
Right.
Squatch similar dynamic to that.
Well, that's very similar, and a lot of the primates too, if you think about it, because let's say, Johnny leaves home, leaves his parents behind, his family behind to make his own family.
Right.
And so there's a time where, guess what? You're single, you're a bachelor most of the time, right? Mm-hmm. That would be an equal representation of the solitary lone male, where you try to find a mate. And that's what you do. You're a bachelor. You try dating. You right? Very similar, right? And I think that's consistent with gorillas and consistent with all the other primates too. But after that, whether they're, have a monogamous or a poly type of relationship, it depends, and. Then again, you look at, gorillas, which are herbivores, and chimpanzees, which are omnivores. And so you have these differences too.
Well, the intelligence of the chimpanzees, now I've not been around gorillas, okay, but I have been around chimpanzees. And the intelligence of chimpanzees is just off the chart. When I was in the Air Force, we had, of course, button-up pockets our shirts, and I would reach, when I went to visit my little chimpanzee buddies, I would reach over to my pocket and begin unbuttoning the pocket on my shirt. Well, they knew I had two things in there. Either they were going to get a smoke or they were going to get a stick of gum, and they were thrilled to have either one, which don't write me no letters. All right, I know. But they enjoyed those things. And every time I would start to unbutton that pocket, they're starting getting vocal. They're they're getting excited.
And then from one of the cages, you hear a chimp say,
"Come get me a Snapple."
So, they could remember that they had gotten treats before, and it all started when I started unbuttoning that pocket. Now, before I started unbuttoning that pocket, they were just silent, looking around, checking me out. But the moment that hand reached up to start unbuttoning that pocket, they got excited. Yes, OG, I did. Yes, I did. That was probably wrong, but they really enjoyed them.
To the ASPCA, we kindly ask that you direct all correspondence regarding this matter to Mr. Bennett and not to the host of the show.
We do not condone that, but at the time, that's what happened, okay? I'm not proud of it.
It was a different...
Well, it was a different time.
Yes, it was.
Right. It was right. You're right, Mike. It was a different time. Where... men are men and sheep were nervous.
And the thing was, I wasn't the first one because they knew what to do with them. Okay, it's not like they're like, "What is this?" No, they knew exactly what they were.
Polyamorous. That's right.
They knew what to do with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I was curious. Do they actually like smoke them like we do, or do they just like eat them or throw them at each other, or
Exactly like we do. They puffed on that cigarette just like a human. Sure did. Yes, we did. Oh
boy, what a sad life Chris lived early in his earlier life. He didn't have any drinking, but he'd have a smoke break with all the chimps. No wonder he has an affinity for bananas.
Oh boy. But yeah, they loved them, and I wasn't the first, so they knew what to do with it. So it's not like that they weren't experienced.
Shit, you think Chris gets excited on pizza night? No, he gets excited when he hears for dessert it's bananas flambe.
Hey man, I love bananas. Oh yeah. Pete said he brought up. That reminds me. Yeah, 43 monkeys escaped from South Carolina. Right. I remember I read something about that. Saw some news coverage, I think, on the tube here. And yeah, that happened in 2016, and it happened again last night or the other night. So they have these. I think I'm not sure. They may be rhesus monkeys or something. Or
well, then that's easy. Just bait them with Reese's Pieces.
Yeah, it's some sort of research facility. You're right, Pete.
Oh, marvelous!
They
flipping marvelous.
I don't know though. I don't think these had been experimented on yet, but they may just be telling us that. As far as we know, they may be loaded with monkeypox. Right.
Yeah, no, don't say the C word.
I do know.
Crystal, thank you so much.
Crystal, thank you very much. I do know that the local news there in that area, were telling people that if a monkey knocks at your door, do not answer.
What I'm wondering is, in the coming days, while they're all like out in the loose in that area, I'm curious if you're going to see a bit of a spike in like Bigfoot or cryptid sightings. Back when the reason I bring this up, back when we did This Week in Bigfoot, probably like one of my favorite segments that I did, I found this correlation between cryptid sightings and states with, and like locations of like biolabs or research labs. So basically what I did, I found this map on Reddit. There might have been some subjectivity to how it was made, but basically the map showed how many different cryptids were in each state. And then I took that map and for like each state, and I found like 5, 6, 7, maybe even like 8 different types of institutions or locations that would have like bio research labs, or they might experiment on animals and stuff like that. Like universities, military, hospitals, biopharma labs, things like that. And I just saw like which states have like the highest number of them, and in like pretty much almost every category, the majority of states, like the majority of like the top 10 states that had like the most of each of these locations that would have like these bio research labs where they experiment on animals, was pretty much like anywhere from like 60 to sometimes 80-90% similar with the top 10 states that had the most cryptids on this map. So my figuring was, is it possible that a good amount of these, cryptid sightings, including Bigfoot, if this, correlation has any legs to that, could actually be like, escaped animal subjects from these labs and labs and facilities and stuff like that?
I don't know, because if they're monkeys, they have tails and they're arboreal. And Bigfoot's not arboreal. If they're chimpanzees, maybe, especially adult chimpanzees, they get rather large. A chimpanzee will get to a couple 100 pounds. But I don't know. But this news just in, A bunch of tobacco nicotine addicted rhesus monkeys were captured near a bodega. And no, I'm just kidding.
Oh man.
They're all taking a Greyhound down to where Chris lives so they can bum a smoke off him.
Well, there have been reports about escaped primates in Florida living happily in the swamps or in the surrounding wooded areas. So,
Yeah,
because the climate is mild enough for they could survive.
don't they have like populations in like Ocala and places, in like the Everglades and places like that?
Well,
I don't know, because the Ocala, the big problem in the Everglades and the areas in Florida that have monkey populations is those were the pets that were released by some of their owners when they, unlike the snakes, which was caused by a Hurricane Andrew, which wiped out this anaconda or the Burmese python refugee, and they lost 1,000 snakes. And now that some of them that they've killed or captured, they've actually tested their DNA, and they're all coming back to where that lab came back. So, because for the most part, snakes do not get unruly for most snake owners, right? They know how to contain them. They're experienced enough. They contain them. Every once in a while, you get a few knuckleheads that go off the map with snakes. But there's a lot of people that own snakes, even in New York State, where you can own a boa constrictor. But you
Florida is a location of several primate facilities that I don't know if you would call them rescue centers, but they take in. Oh, it would be like my chimpanzee retirement homes. They take in lab animals that had been, previously abused for science, and they let them live out the rest of their days in a natural habitat. And so there are several of those in Florida. As a matter of fact, some of the chimps from the Alamogordo primate facility were relocated to some of these locations in Florida.
I think Florida too. It's one of those states that does like the most animal tests. Like it does like tens of thousands of like animal that we know of at least each year. I remember coming across that. So
yeah, there's a lot of the areas though where they've been rescued. I don't want to say rescued. It's just a retirement facility for them where they're no longer experimented on. And those are placed in Florida, different locations. Usually, when you get to the tropical zone range, Florida and down, that's where they're at. Some of them are pretty cool, and you can see them online. I can't ring off the name of the facilities off the top of my head, but they'll let you see photos and sometimes videos of the little guys out there playing around and enjoying themselves.
not for nothing. Some of the experiments, I really dove into the stuff when I was putting that segment together. When I read some of the stuff that they do to like those monkeys, especially the dogs and cats, it was just heartbreaking.
Oh, yeah.
That's right, Jen. Everything retires to Florida. That's for sure.
Mike, you are right. And that was one of the reasons they started experimenting on the ones at the Alamogordo primate facility by injecting them with HIV. And they infected them all with HIV. So after that, no more gum, no more anything else. And I stopped visiting because some of those little rascals were spitters. And that was the last thing I wanted to get. I didn't want to contract HIV because a monkey spit on me and it landed in my eyeball or in my mouth. I said monkey, excuse me, chimpanzee.
Well, I thought the only way you get HIV was like direct blood-to-blood contact, or am I way off on that? Or
in actuality, membrane to membrane contact.
Okay.
That's why HIV is sexually transmitted.
Gotcha.
So, well, I wasn't going to go that far. Just the gum and the other things. That was it.
Well, yeah, Chris was not having sex with the chimpanzees. Let's make that perfectly clear.
But at that point, we were worried about bodily excretions. Could possibly, we're talking, this is in the 80s. So at that time, HIV wasn't well known. But it was or how the transmission wasn't well known.
Poop.
But it was all
Everywhere. Poop.
It was all in vain. They infected every one of those little rascals with HIV in hopes they would develop full-blown AIDS so they could do research for vaccines and other things. And they could develop full-blown AIDS.
And
So
that didn't work. And that didn't work out for them, did it?
It did not work out.
Nope. That's how they learned. Remember, we did the show about a couple of months ago. We did a show about disease and Bigfoot.
Yes.
And we showed the primates, like chimpanzees and gorillas and orangutans, do not get HIV. They get a different form.
Yeah, they can contract HIV, but not AIDS. Not AIDS.
No. They normally they will catch SIV, which is simian, of the simian version of it, but they will not go into full blown AIDS.
And so that was unfortunate, and it kind of angered me too, because these were not just yeah, exactly. These were descendants of Ham and some of the chimps that made up our space program that helped us get into space. These were not just, oddball chimpanzees from research labs. These guys were famous, and they ended up infecting them with HIV for no reason. Well, we knew what the reasons were, but what their end goal was to have one develop full-blown AIDS never worked out. And it's terrible. It's a tragedy that humans did that. But
oh no, Bill, you did not just do that. How does Bigfoot avoid gingivitis?
I'll let you guys take that one. I'll just
well, that's really easy. A nice bristled pine leaf, right, makes an excellent toothbrush.
Well, no sugar in the diet.
Well, that's the other thing, and they have they have a low carb diet, right? A lot of people don't understand that a lot of our tooth decay isn't just sugar alone; it's also carbohydrates, which if they break down in the mouth, they start to adhere to the teeth, and what do they turn into? Sugar. So remember, carbs all turn into sugar. So yeah, as long as they're not, that's why they, like you see people feeding bread to bears a lot, on the parks and like that. That's horrible stuff for them because again, that's carbs, and it gets in their teeth, and eventually they start losing teeth. If you ever watch, there's a YouTube channel. It used to be on one of the networks, not an outdoor life network, but something similar. And it was this guy who was the bear, like the bear whisperer or something like that. And he was a fish and game guy for this county out in Oregon. And he would go out and he had to control the bear population. They had a very big bear population. And every once in a while he would, he's an old bear. He's lost all his teeth and stuff like that. And you don't think about that, but bear do lose their teeth, as do, chimpanzees and gorillas and stuff like that. They, they're prone to a lot. Every animal is prone to tooth decay. That is the one common thing amongst animals that have mammals that have teeth. And a lot of animals don't get tooth decay because they're not getting carbs. The reason why dogs get tooth decay a lot of times is because they have diets that are rich with, fillers in their food, such as carbohydrates. It's why cats have teeth issues, because their food is very high fat, high carb, and high protein. It's that carb element that really does it for them, not necessarily sugar. And sugar, by the way, is horrible for any animal, including ourselves. But we tend to, evolutionary wise, we've seemed to have adapted to it for the most time. But you start giving a lot of sugar to a dog, they're going to develop diabetes as well as your cat as well.
I stopped taking sugar in my coffee for what it's worth. I just do milk or cream now. Just
It doesn't help. I switched to no sugar beverages when I was 30 years old, 32 years old. And 10 years later, I still got diabetes. And the doctor was like, there's no explanation for it. There's nothing done. You're not an obese guy. You're not,
Mm-hmm.
And his thing was, you can eat all the sugar in the world and not get diabetes. You can eat no sugar in the world and get diabetes. So he goes, it's just one of those things. I had a grandmother on my mom's side that was a diabetic, but she was a heavy woman. So we got it later in life. So she had type 2 diabetes, but she was insulin dependent. The only reason why I'm not insulin dependent is because I'm, 175 pounds, 180 pounds on a normal day. So I'm, that's probably why I'm not, doing the needles. Or now, and even now, that's not even so much of a stigma because now they have, you just pop yourself once in the morning and you're good to go for 24 hours. And they have somebody else. So, Rokor Agepta, hello, Rokor. Welcome aboard and thanks for participating in chat. Good to see you. Kick your feet up, make yourself at home. Said lemon eucalyptus helps stave off gingivitis naturally until we good mention.
Very cool.
But the only animal I know that eats eucalyptus normally is the koala bear. So they probably don't have much gingivitis. And lemons, well,
and you got to think these creatures that live in the woods, they know what to eat.
I bet you my buddy from the Bay Area there that likes Snapple, he eats a lot of lemons too, because he's such a sour puss. Anyway, another bad.
But when animals get sick, they seem to know the natural remedies to eat for it. If a cat or a dog gets an upset stomach, they go out in the lawn and they're chewing up grass.
Yep.
I'm certain with all the, and we have herbs that grow in the woods, mainly ginseng, willow bark, things like that.
Really? What other herbs? I'm interested.
Well, there's a lot. I'm not going to name them all, but
hey, man.
Yeah.
Hey, man, what you smoking? Hey.
But I think these creatures would be well aware if they were in pain, they could eat some bark from a willow tree and get some pain relief out of it, or ginseng, things of that nature.
There's certain funguses or fungi, whatever the plural is, too. If you get lucky, of the
very possible
mushroom variety.
Sure, very possible, and they would probably know what. When they ate one, what made them feel funny, like the chimpanzees and the apples. One from who was it? Was it Jane Goodall? Had reported that they gave the chimps apples.
They like the fermented. They like the fermented ones better. The ones that were sitting around for 2 or 3 days better.
Right. They wanted
they would take our apples, throw those over there, and grab the fermented or rotting ones because. Yeah. All I'll say is this, I don't get involved in disputes, so that do not involve me, so I have no idea.
Citrus acid can be hard on teeth. I believe that too, yeah.
Citric acid. Yep, that's actually what citrus acid turns into citric acid.
Citric acid, yeah. And I learned to be careful with that stuff because back I've been experimenting the past few years with making pizzas, homemade pizzas, pizza sauce, things of that nature. And one of my experiments, I used citric acid, sprinkled some in the sauce to give it that sour citrus flavor, and ended up I used too much. And another side effect I can tell you from experience of citric acid is it is a very good diuretic. So if you're constipated, just get you a dose of citric acid and that will fix it.
Well, that's not a diuretic.
Now that was
diuretic makes you go whiz.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That pizza was interesting because afterwards, it was time to go read.
Well, you know what we did is years ago when I was with one ambulance company, we used to send a pizza over to the other ambulance company, but before they got it, we used to douse it with a little bit of Lasix, make everybody have to go pee for a while.
Oh no. Well,
we were horrible. We would lidocaine gel steering wheels, so the driver would be there, and all of a sudden, like their hands just start going numb.
Oh
yeah, we were ruthless. But yeah, another thing too is a lot of people don't know. You have an ulcer. A lot of people say, "Oh, drink milk, drink milk, drink milk." Not good because milk turns into lactic acid.
Yes,
and that is the number one reason why people have dairy sensitivities is because of the laxative, lactic acid in that
laxative. Yes, Tennessee Cherokee. Right. That's true.
Isn't apple juice supposed to be good for like that stuff or heartburn or?
I don't think so. Actually, truthfully, milk does work as a temporary. heartburn you can relieve with milk.
Yes.
Right. But ulcers you cannot relieve with milk. It'll feel good for a while, but as time goes on.
Yes. After you first drink it, it's a relief. And then 5 minutes later, you're miserable again.
Damn straight, paramedic. And we had a paid fire department where we were. And one time we took, I'm proud to be an EMS volunteer. We put that bumper sticker on the chief's car. It was on there for like a month before they realized it was on there. That was really funny. Oh, yeah. Put the burn gel on the foam pieces, then wait for the right person to sit by the phone, then call them.
You guys were terrible.
Oh, yeah. At nighttime, I used to saran wrap the toilet bowl.
That's very nice.
Oh, yeah. One of the other tricks, too, is I would lube up the toilet seat when I had all-male crew, mind you. I wouldn't do that if there was a woman, but when I had an all-male crew, I would lube up the toilet seat with dish detergent because then they try to get it off and it just lathers up.
Oh, no. Would not want to work with you guys. No.
Oh, yeah, we were horrible. We used to set up water. You open up the door, the water would come down on somebody. We did it all. It was rough. Oh, my best ambulance gag was. In the meantime, the patient is flat like that. No. One of the things we did do, one of the funniest gags I ever played, we had a kid. Now, mind you, I was a supervisor. And we had this kid, he kept loading his ambulance up. Now, what they meant by loading is when you get into an ambulance, in the old days anyway, you used to have to turn the batteries on. And what he would do is leave his air conditioner on. And you really shouldn't leave your air conditioner on when you turn your batteries on. It can short the system, stuff like that. This was back in the old days. So what I did is he parked his ambulance and I walked over, I looked at it. I said, he's got his air conditioner on. So when he turns his battery on, it's going to blow out. And it was on full blast, so it's going to blow out and everything.
Oh.
I'll fix him. I go to the supply cabinet, get a bottle of talcum powder, and I put it down the vent.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I go, send him on a transport. They send him on a transport. He gets in the ambulance and turns the battery on. You just see this white cloud come out of the friggin' front cab of the ambulance. He comes out looking whiter than white can be.
Oh, that's terrible. terrible.
He took his glasses off, and then you could actually see his skin.
Yeah. Yeah, that's terrible.
And the funny thing is the dispatcher used to sit there, and he knew what I was doing. He just sitting there watching me going.
Mm-hmm.
So call him out for a call. They come down.
Yep.
He just stood there and went. Just sit there and shaking it. Although I got to say, he did catch me one time. I got up in the ambulance. I took a misstep and I fell out. I fell out of the ambulance. Right. I climb back in. I look over and he's looking at me. I just pick up the radio. I go, "Did you see that?" He comes back. Yep.
Try to play it off.
Yeah. Oh, we had a lot of fun. The dispatcher and I, since I was a soup, so I drove alone. I had a fly car. I had a Chevy Blazer that I drove in. We often would get food like a pizza, and we always put anchovies on it. And the reason why is if I had to go to a call, nobody would touch that pizza. Not a person would touch that. Oh, yeah, I'm not eating that. So I'd come back and I'd still have my pizza to eat.
Got anchovies on it. I want none of that. Yeah.
Right. And if I got wings, I would get the hottest effing wings you could ever have. They would, the next morning, those wings were so hot. The next morning, I had to put on asbestos underwear just in case. Right. So
you came back and the wings, maybe one would be gone, but that would be it.
Right. They actually had to install seat belts on the toilets. That's how bad those wings were.
Oh,
but anyway, it is getting late, folks. We have been over now an hour and 40 minutes, our normal Friday time. So we had a little fun discussion here going on for a little bit. But I know we got a little off topic towards the end, but we're in bonus time. So what the hell? I hope everybody got their money's worth tonight. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of good analysis tonight. Had a lot of good discussion on the Bigfoot topic and had a little fun at the end. So that's what the show is all about. So for those listening on the audio side, make sure you pop in and, come in to see the graphics, to see what we were talking about. You guys will appreciate that. For those, the same with our friends over there on Wolf Rock Radio, who's going to be listening to this program this Sunday night. So, Chris, why don't you take us out?
Yeah. Well, I want to thank Mike for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure having you, Mike, and a great conversation. A lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate coming back on the show. Love to come on again.
Hope to have you back soon, man. It's been
absolutely.
And I want to thank our lovely audience for joining us tonight. We appreciate you guys. You guys in the chat have been killing me. Thank you so much for joining. I cannot not express how honored Steve and I are that you would want to hang out with us on Wednesdays and Fridays and Sundays. We appreciate you. And the greatest audience we could ever hope to have. Thank you so much. If it's your first time, if you're brand new to the channel, punch that subscribe button, smash the like on the way out if you hadn't already. And we do our best to bring you the best coverage that we can. And so, kind of help us out. It's supposed to, they tell us that algorithm wants you to get subscribers and it wants you to have likes on the video. So try to help us out if you can. Thank you.
And again, thanks, Mike, for coming on. You are welcome here anytime you want. You get anything breaking? It was great. It's great seeing you last week. That was awesome. And it was great seeing Brian and Chewy as well. And Chewy was much more friendlier during the daytime than he was at night. Nighttime, he was kind of like, all these people.
Yeah,
yeah, a little understandable. But Chewy was a lot of fun. During the day. And folks, again, welcome to all our new subscribers on all the platforms. And do us a favor too. If you like this show, make sure you share it with your friends. Share it with people with like interest. Get the word out. This show is going to educate you. We're going to have some fun at the same time. We're not sticks in the mud. This is not, oh, look, there's the Sasquatch walking across the plains. No, this is not a boring, we're not going to, pardon the French, but we're not going to bullshit you with stories that are out of this world. It's not story time here. When we have a witness on, we have somebody come in and tell their story. We don't necessarily talk about a story. We don't have some AI tell the story for them. We have the person come on. Unless, of course, we're actually reviewing a story. You get what I mean. But anyway, we love you all. We have the greatest audience in the world. And we will see you all here on Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on youtube.com/Squatch at Squatch-D TV. And again, thanks everybody. We'll catch you all Sunday night.
We thank you for being here with us on Squatch-D TV. If you haven't taken the time yet, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. And oh yes, hit that notification bell too. We don't want you to miss anything. If you really like our content, you should consider becoming a member, and it's really inexpensive and a great way to support not only the show, but honest Bigfoot research. Everyone have a great week. Be safe and God bless. We will see you all here next time on Squatch-D TV. Keep on squatching.